Welcome. Oh, nope, never mind. Am I not gaveling? Welcome to the March 14th City Council work session and meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency. We are going to go into executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660E to discuss the negotiation of a real property transaction. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we may return to open session and welcome the audience back into the room. And session, and
We'll wait till they knock.
wait till the knock.
And folks will get called back in if they're waiting out there.
All right, great.
So you're still in a meeting of the
Urban renewal, but we're out of executive session, and so now we're ready for a motion.
Did you gavel in the?
I don't have to.
You're already
gavel.
in.
We're already in.
See, awesome.
Gaveled a lot already.
I've
A lot of
done
gaveling.
more.
I just want to make sure it was
It's
on.
random and
On
one of those
tape,
wax
on
was the right
TV.
word.
Everybody saw the gaveling. Okay, good. I move to direct the agency director to work with river guides and others to prepare a draft RFP for the disposal of the steam plant and to schedule a work session with the agency board to discuss the draft RFP's criteria and process.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion about this? All in favor of the motion? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. None opposed, so it passes. Thank you very much. And now I can close out of the meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency and open up the council work session. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. And Jennifer, are you the one that's making the presentation?
All right, so I am Jennifer Willer. I am a principal civil engineer in Public Works Engineering, and I was the staff facilitator for the Citizen Street Repair Review Panel this year, and will be providing presentation on both the update to the bond measure, so we have an annual update to that, as well as the pavement management report. I do have Eric Johnson here in the audience. He's our surface operations manager, so he can answer some additional questions that you might have about the pavement management report. And also John Borofsky is here. He was the chair for the SRRP this year. I don't think I saw any other SRP members come in yet. So this is, again, the items that I'm planning on talking about today. I am going to start off with the pavement management report because it will kind of give you a picture of the whole program and what we're all about. And then move into the annual report by the SRP, as well as the good news that we are projecting a remaining fund balance for the 2012 bond. So the annual pavement management report, each year the Public Works Maintenance Division produces a report on the state of the pavement surfaces around the city. And you should have a copy of that in your packet. We now have about 15 years of data associated with this annual process. And of course, one of the headline stories this year is that voters passed a third 5-year bond measure this last November. And that information is taken into account in this report as far as the future projections. Just a kind of a refresher here, Eugene Public Works manages 543 lane miles across the city, and that equates to 1,356 centerline miles. So in the pavement preservation world, you'll hear a lot of talk about lane miles. And a lane mile is a 12-foot wide, 1 mile length lane. And it just basically equates streets to each other, so that if you just looked at centerline miles, a street that's maybe 5 lanes wide would not be the same as a 2-lane residential street. And so if you just talked about center lines, you wouldn't be accurately reflecting that picture. And in order to assess the condition of the system, arterial and collector streets are evaluated annually. Local residential streets are evaluated on a 3-year cycle. And the off-street shared use path system is evaluated every 2 years. Pavement surface distresses are documented based on their severity and extent. Needed work is identified based on what the existing pavement structure is, what year the street was built, and then what are those observable defects in the pavement. And based on that, there is an identification in the pavement rating process of what the estimated treatment need for that street would be. And if there is more work to be done than funds available, then that's identified as a backlog and needed repairs. So that becomes important when we talk about the rest of this report about what does a backlog mean. So before I get into the bulk of the system, just a couple of things to note. The unimproved paved street system, this is a street that does not have an engineered pavement structure or a formal stormwater drainage system. And we have a little over 100 lane miles of unimproved paved streets. And as you can see on this report, this is about the last 6 years of data. We have steadily been decreasing the amount of unimproved streets from the poor and fair condition and increasing the number of streets that fit into the good and excellent condition. And based on existing funding levels, Public Works Maintenance is projecting that they should be able to treat all unimproved paved streets within the next 7 to 10 years. And then this is our off-street shared use path system. It's about 45 miles of paths. And as you can see, most of the system is in the good and excellent condition. You might remember that the first street repair bond measure passed in 2008 did include a specific provision that a portion of that money be spent on off-street paths and the preservation of them. When we were discussing the next bond measure that went before voters in 2012, there was some discussion at the SRP, and I believe probably here too, that the most dire needs of the off-street path system had kind of been dealt with or addressed in that first bond measure, and wanted to open it up to be more flexible for projects that were identified in, at the time, the Pedestrian and Bicycle Master Plan and by the Active Transportation Committee. And that has been carried forward from 2012 into the new bond that was just passed in 2017. So the bulk of our streets fall into the improved paved system. And just to review, in 2007, the backlog was projected to reach $282 million by 2016. And at the beginning of our 2008 bond measure, the backlog was estimated at $171 million. Based on 2017 data, the bond renewal that just happened, the backlog is estimated now at $79.8 million. Although we have passed the bond measure and is projecting stable funding through 2023, we are projecting that we will see an increase in the backlog in 10 years because that bond is for 5 years. So based on that bond running out, we do expect a backlog to start increasing again, and a majority of the current backlog does occur on local residential streets right now. We are projecting that by the end of 2023, the reconstruct backlogs on arterial and collectors will have been eliminated. So this is just another perspective on the system needs from more of an annual basis and the available funding on an annual basis. In 2008, again, at the beginning of, or just prior to the beginning of the first bond measure, it was projected that we had an annual need of $27 million a year for capital pavement preservation. In order to eliminate all streets that need to be reconstructed and prevent any street from falling into a reconstruction category. Based on economics, the way that we've performed our work and the bond measures, that number has steadily decreased over the years, such that in this current report, it is estimated that $16.2 million is needed as an annual funding need. And so this graph here is straight from the pavement management report, and what it basically shows you is when the bond that passed in 2017, when it ends in 2023, kind of what happens to our overall system condition. A couple of things to note here is that currently we have about 20% of the system that still needs some kind of rehabilitation work. And so what I said in the previous slide is that based on the 2017 data, we need $16.2 million a year. And our local gas tax provides 5 cents per gallon, which comes out to about $3 million a year. And the street repair bonds provide about $8 to $9 million a year. So you do see that there's a gap there between the annual needs. And that's why once the bond does, and so that's why you do see that yellow line, which is indicating the streets that need an overlay or less invasive rehabilitation. It is steadily increasing until you get to that 2023 line, where the roads in green that don't need any treatment drop off quite a bit to more needing treatment. So that's the high-level summary for the payment management report. For the street repair review panel report, again, this is related to measure 20-197, which was passed in November of 2012. We are in the 4th year of the 5-year bond measure. In 2018, we are projected that we'll complete all the projects that were listed in the bond except for South Willamette, which is tied to a federal enhancement project, and so that project is kind of on that same timing. And the first round of projects were started in 2014 for construction. Again, $43 million was the amount of the bond to be constructed over 5 years. There were 76 named streets, and also there was a provision for an average of $516,000 to be spent on active transportation projects. There were some provisions in the resolution regarding accountability, and it really boils down to these 3 items. The first was the formation of a citizen street repair review panel that would oversee the expenditures and prepare an annual report. There was also a requirement for an annual report from an outside auditor to review the expenditures and make sure that they were complying with the requirements of the bond. This year we had 11 community members that were on the SRP, and they're all listed up there. And again, I mentioned John Borofsky is here. Has anybody else showed up? Okay. The citizen panel this year met 3 times between December and February. And one of the meetings consisted of us actually taking a rec van and driving folks around and looking at projects that were constructed as well as projects that were planned for future years. This year we completed 14 rehabilitation projects, which treated more than 14.5 lane miles. We also completed a number of safety improvements for active transportation projects that included a variety of techniques. We also continued to be a leader in the use of war mix asphalt, reclaimed asphalt pavement, and in-place recycling. And just to note that we continue to use warm mix asphalt pavement as a requirement on all our capital paving projects, which is definitely kind of ahead of most other agencies in our position. But the good thing is that all our local pavement producers have converted their plants several years ago to be able to provide that to us. Another thing that you're going to note as I go through a lot of these slides is that we are routinely partnering with other agencies and departments in order to maximize the improvements that we do on the projects and to kind of get everything done at one time. So I'm going to just go through a few projects just to spotlight them of some features of them. First and 2nd Avenue. In Council Ward 7, First Avenue is a major collector, 2nd Avenue is a local street. Both streets were rehabilitated by just removing the paved surface, reconditioning the existing base, and then repaving the street. And through this technique, the project saved about $500,000 than what we expected it to. We also included the pedestrian and bicycle funds from the bond to add bike lanes on 2nd Avenue as well as widen some existing bike lanes. East Amazon Drive, that is a minor arterial in Council Ward 2. This street was also treated consisting of an in-place recycling of the existing roadway, and a stabilized base was constructed, and then the street was repaved. And I just wanted to note that the striping is temporary, and that the plan is that we have a federally funded active transportation project later this year that will put the final striping on that street to create a two-way protected cycle track. Another project I wanted to point out is this is a group of local residential streets in the Harlow neighborhood. A lot of these small residential streets aren't very cost effective if you just do them by themselves, but when we're able to kind of mush up a whole group of streets at one time, we can do a very favorable project. These streets were all rehabilitated with a variety of techniques that involved in-place recycling and overlays and just looking for ways to construct a rehabilitated street that meets our city standards, but also is respectful of the amount of money. And in the end, this project saved almost $1 million from what our original expectation was. These are also very popular streets for walking to school. So one part of the project was to reconfigure an intersection in order to create a safer, more visible crossing. We also supplemented this project with local gas tax funds to capture some adjacent street sections that weren't in the bond that needed work at the same time, as well as we partnered with maintenance to include some repairs to unimproved paved streets at the same time. And then I also have the Jefferson Street project, a minor arterial in Council Ward 1. It did require full depth reconstruction because the existing materials just were too far damaged or were not enough in order to support the heavy traffic that street uses. And so and also because of the heavy traffic and the impacts to the neighborhood, we went ahead and replaced that concrete surface with concrete again, which all of those things did increase the cost quite a bit. But a couple of things to note is that this project did enhance pedestrian crossings at 3 intersections. We supplemented the project with stormwater funds in order to install some stormwater quality planters along the project to treat rainwater runoff. As far as active transportation projects, there were a lot, and in the interest of time, I think that I might not go over all the specific projects, but just know that there were a lot. We partnered with a lot of different funds to just really maximize the use of that money this year. And there are more details in the report that I gave to council. So based on all of this information, the Street Repair Review Panel did make a statement in their memo on top that just said that based on their review and all the materials presented to us, we unanimously conclude that the bond proceeds were used for the authorized purposes. And so that was just again, this panel, they've really taken the time to educate themselves on the specifics of pavement preservation. We always have a very lively and educational conversation through all these meetings, so I just really appreciate working with them, and I think that it just shows on the good work that we do. So another piece of the annual review is an independent accountant's report, and they did review expenditures incurred from January 1st, 2017 to December 31st. They tested for compliance with the bond, specifically by reviewing pay estimates, invoices, timesheets, other project expenditures, and everything that we spent related to the projects or that was billed to the projects. And again, after they got through with all of that, they also made the statement that all tested expenditures were recorded in the proper account and spent on the proper projects as outlined in the resolution from council. So this transitions to part of that resolution 5063, which created the bond measure, was a provision that if all projects listed in Exhibit A are completed and there are bond proceeds remaining, the council may add other street preservation projects to the list. If you recall, this happened in 2008's bond measure. We had actually quite a lot of money left over the last time. I think it was about $8 million, and we completed about 10 additional streets, I think it was, with the last bond measure. This year is not to the same extent, but we are projecting a remaining balance at the end of 2018, largely due to value engineering some of the projects that I talked about where we use some different techniques to save money, as well as just a favorable construction climate that we've had so far. Based on the first 4 years of the bond-funded projects, we're at $3.7 million under our estimated amount. Based on some preliminary project estimates for 2018 and 2019 with the South Willamette project, we are projecting a final remaining balance of $2.5 to $3 million. So we did come up with some recommended streets, and we used the same criteria from the bond that were used in the bond measure to pick streets, which is basically engineering and cost benefit information about preservation treatments, citizen input regarding the major streets in need of repair, and geographic distribution. And how we did that was we included a major street that through opportune timing we're able to avoid further deterioration and avoid reconstruction. We reviewed the list with the SRP, noting several streets had been previously identified by the SRP for repairs, and also we ensured that we covered multiple council wards with our selection. So these are the streets that we were proposing. The group of streets, Jerry Street, Lewis Street, and Richard Avenue, are all in Ward 7. They were on the list of street projects considered by the SRP for the 2017 bond, and they were part of a Tier 2 group that dropped off when the funding amount was set. The Barger Drive project is a minor arterial in Ward 6, and it's one that was not considered for the bond that was passed in 2017, mostly because we thought that we had more time to do it, but based on its condition, it's deteriorating pretty quickly. And this section is kind of bounded by some other sections that have been repaved in the fairly recent past. So we're looking at this just being a really opportune time to capture the street before it further deteriorates. And then a couple of projects, Villard Street in Ward 3 and 19th Avenue in Ward 1. These are projects that we've been looking at for some time, and we have started the design work on these projects with local gas taxes, and our proposal would be to approve these to use bond money to fund them, and if we do run out of bond money, then we would complete them with the gas tax money on the same schedule. So that is my presentation. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And
Thank you. I have two counselors in the queue. I just want to thank you for this. 3 counselors in the queue, 4 counselors in the queue. But I'm going to just jump in and thank you very much for a very thorough report, and my gratitude and our gratitude, I think, to the Street Review Panel Committee, which really has done wonderful work and very important work, and it's a little bit wonky, I don't know, to me, to know that much about street repaving, so I'm grateful that somebody studies it so thoroughly to evaluate it. So thank you, and with that, I turn it over to Mike.
Thank you, Mayor. This report says to me that yet again, we as a city have done more than we said we would do, and we've done it for less money. And so now we've got enough money to do a few more streets while we're at it. And I think that's awesome. I think that's a great job on everybody's part that works on this. Not just staff, but the citizens that have been involved in this process and helping to guide with advice. I think this is a great success in the history of our city in the last decade or so. There's 2 or 3 things we can point at and go, you know what, we did that part okay. And this is one of them. So good job. Thank you.
thank you.
Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you. And yes, this report was great. Thank you so much. But I actually had an education question. I didn't understand what you meant by the warm mix. It sounded like it's somehow sustainably better, but could you really quick explain that to me?
Sure. So for many years, asphalt pavement is this incredibly hot mixture, and it has to do with just the chemistry of this petroleum-based product that has to get heated up to a temperature in order to properly mix all the materials together. What we've found are some more efficient techniques of being able to mix all those materials together at a much lower temperature. And it saves energy costs at the plant, so they don't have to heat up their plant to that same temperature to produce that mix. It also means sometimes if you just drive around or think about the old days, a lot of people associate paving projects with these plumes of blue-black smoke coming off the trucks and things like that. You don't see that in Eugene. and it is purely because we have dropped that temperature by about 50 to 80 degrees, and it just means that those light oils that are in the mix aren't burning off. And so not only do you not have that off-gassing, but just the energy savings at the plant too.
Thank you. I didn't understand what that meant. I also, this list of streets that you've picked, did our Vision Zero type discussions get factored into which streets, or was it purely cost and what needed to be done first?
So at the point of time that we were selecting projects both in 2017 and for this, is that the Vision Zero process hasn't been defined enough to know what are the specific treatments that are needed to address Vision Zero. When we do look at each street, we do try to consider what safety improvements we'll make as we're there.
As you're doing each project.
Right.
Thank you.
Alan?
Yeah, thanks to the Citizens Review Committee for doing this wonky work. It's very important to have this accountability mechanism in it, as well as the independent auditor going in and making sure that we did what we said we were going to do, and promises made, promises kept kind of thing. I think it's awesome that we did what we said we were going to do for less money than we estimated. So it's a great example of citizens of Eugene getting another better bang for their buck from the city. I think I applaud you for that. Do we have what accounts for the lower cost? Is it, and secondly, do we have we seen when we did the first bond, we saw a decrease in the cost per mile to do a road. How's that tracked over time? Can we get that information?
So some of this is just really anecdotal based on my own observations, but in the first bond measure, we did have a pretty significant recession, and with that recession, the construction costs became really competitive, and I think that was a big part of the drop in construction prices. The other piece was that there were a few projects that we, based on surface condition, thought that the street needed to be completely reconstructed, and when we went in and tested them, they didn't need that big of a treatment. So I think of like a River Road where we saved possibly even like $2 million just on River Road. So and so there's been a number of projects like that are the way our pavement management system is set up. You're looking at surface defects, and so sometimes you don't totally know how deep the treatment has to go, and the way that we set up our treatments, we don't throw out every possible treatment technique for the pavement management system in estimating our costs. And so it's not until we get into design and start doing some more testing that we can really focus in on what treatment technique that we can do. And sometimes if we're assuming a full depth reconstruct, and we can do something like in-place recycling, which means that we can save, quite a bit of money. I mean, it's significantly less to do an in-place reconstruct or in-place reclamation project. I think that that's part of it, because we do very few projects where we just go out and dig it all up and replace it all, and that's a huge cost savings, I think, for us.
That's very expensive. So have we seen the trend in terms of dollars per lane mile?
We have.
Is it stable, going up, going down?
It's going up. I don't have those specific numbers in front of me, but they are in the pavement management report where they talk about what the unit costs of those different street treatment techniques are.
Over time?
I can't remember, Eric, does it just show the last couple of years of like what the difference in the unit cost was from the last time to this time?
We were adjusting the unit cost every 5 years.
Can't hear you.
And over the last,
Eric, introduce yourself.
Eric Johnson with Public Works Maintenance. I'm the Surface Operations Manager. My section does a reporting annually on pavement management. Going back to the question on the funding that we use to do our projections, several years ago we decided that we were going to, every 5 years we'd adjust the rates because there was a volatile market with oil prices and things that, every year we were chasing that number around. So we decided to do every 5 years we'd adjust it. And you can see a spike, I think it was last year, where all of a sudden our backlog went up from 79 million up to 91 million. It was because of that unit cost spike. So we're going back to every 2 years of adjusting the unit cost based on actual construction costs that engineering will provide us. And then we do a 2% inflationary factor each year to help to adjust that cost.
Thanks, Eric. Is there a subsurface operations manager?
There is.
There is?
There is.
Of course there is.
On the PED crossings, is everything incorporated that in one of those? Is that paid for by the bonds? Signage and the striping and
it depends. So some of the pedestrian crossings, most of them, if part of it's paid for by the bond, it's all paid for by the bond. But there are sometimes on projects that through a variety of circumstances, sometimes the crossings are paid for by different funds. So one of the examples I can think of is on 3rd Avenue between Washington and Lincoln, I think it was, that the street was paid for by local gas taxes. There was also some things that were paid for by the bond, and then also there was some property owner contributions on some different active transportation and pieces.
Are we standardizing the pedestrian intersection? I know we had a picture of one, but we've got several different kinds we've talked about this at MPC every once in a while, where there's a whole bunch of different kinds all over the place and people get sort of confused about what they're supposed to do when. Are we standardizing that as a region or at least within the city?
I don't know that we're there yet. I think that each one of those treatments has a place depending on what the circumstances of the road are, and I know that there's some work going on around how those work, the signing, and I do know that there are some differences across the nation on some of the specific elements of those
It'd be good if we could
facilities.
figure out something that was pretty standardized, because then people would get used to it. When we threw up that flashing light at the hub, it confused people like crazy, and they don't. Surprisingly, some people don't know they're supposed to stop at a flashing red light.
Right.
So it'd be. Do you have the energy and greenhouse gas savings from the warm mix that we've done over the years?
I don't have it in front of me. I know that it is part of the report that you received, that we talked about it as for last year, that based on our use of warm mix and use of reclaimed asphalt pavement within our mixes, that we have a calculator from the Good Company that we can plug that information in and see what our CO2 equivalent reduction is.
Versus the standard way of doing it.
Right.
And we were the pioneer for warm mix in the state. Right?
We were. Well, and especially the pioneer at embracing it to the level that we were applying it to all our projects. Right. There's a lot of agencies that allow it on a optional basis, but since all of our local contractors converted over, we've just made it required. And from talking with the contractors, they save. My perception is that they save a lot of energy costs, and they are very supportive of using warm mix.
Right. It's also easier to on the workers to sweat as much. And thank you for including Villard right at the part that we're talking about is right at the arena, and it's really falling apart. And because of the heavy vehicles that are there all the time and the heavy use that it gets, when we did the arena agreement with the U of O, they only rebuilt the arena side of that street and not the other side. So the other side's just really falling apart. So it will be very much appreciated in my part of town that will get fixed.
Good.
In desperate need of it as well.
Chris?
Thank you. Great report, Jennifer. I really appreciate it. I think it's very informative, and what I get out of it, and I'm kind of zeroing in on the pavement management report, is the good news is we've managed to bond and reorganize so we now have enough buckets to keep the boat bailed. It's not sinking. But we have to keep bailing. We can never stop bailing. And I think that's the message that's coming through, is there's not going to be a point where we'll be able to say, hey, we've solved the backlog, we can all go and watch TV and have some chips. We're going to have to keep after this. In fact, the thing that's most meaningful to me is if we stop bonding, the backlog will immediately skyrocket back up again. And we have done such an incredible job of getting that backlog down significantly that it would seem incredibly short-sighted to stop doing that and let that backlog go right back up again. So it's a good news, bad news thing, and I appreciate the fact that we have a lot of good news to tell, but the bad news can happen very easily if we don't manage it, if we don't stay on top of it. So using that same metaphor, I'm wondering, the pavement preservation work that we do, can you think of that as like a patch on the bottom of the boat so it doesn't keep filling with water? And if we were to devote more money to pavement preservation, it would be like patching the boat, make less need for bailing. I mean, that's the sense I used to get from Kurt, and I'm wondering if that is still the case.
Well, so eventually, when I talked about the annual funding amount needed, eventually you're going to get so that annual funding amount matches up with the same amount of streets that have reached the condition where they need to be rehabilitated. And until we get to that point, I mean, it's a little bit nebulous right now to say what that amount of money is that we need. But
they'll keep falling off. Unless we're spending the money now.
Until you find a way to get closer to that annual need, eventually that number does keep growing.
So in terms of things we can't stop doing, we have to keep working on the backlog, but we also need to figure out ways to make our annual investment in street preservation such that it no longer allows streets to fall into that backlog category. So I guess what I'm looking for is the best assessment for what's really needed proactively to ensure that we're maintaining a good level of year after year after year street preservation. I have a sense we're much better than we used to be, but it's still not there yet.
So, right, I mean, again, going back to that annual amount of funding slide that I had up there earlier, according to the data that we have as of 2017 and the condition of the roadways that we know of, it's telling us that we need $16 million a year. And again, as we continue through these projects, that number may continue to change. I mean, one thing that we saw is that, we get into some streets, they're not reconstructs, we do something for less expense, and, I think that all influences those numbers. To me, the challenge is until we get rid of that reconstruct backlog, we're not entirely sure what that annual number should be. So that annual number that I presented is just based on the pavement management data that we have as of 2017. But as long as we have that reconstruct backlog, we don't really know what that annual number is to be able to continuously address the rehabilitation.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's great. You're doing a tremendous job with what you have. And that's the theme that's coming through for me. Last question I had on this slide before that, you talked about the work we're doing on unimproved streets. And I have a question about what is the city of Eugene's responsibility and policy around continuing to support and maintain unimproved streets, because they're not technically at Eugene standard. And I'm kind of wondering, what is the mechanism, the policy, and the obligation we have around unimproved streets? That may be a long question.
Ask that question for 12 years.
Yeah.
So right now, our current policy, or how we maintain our unimproved streets, is we do minimal maintenance on them. So if we have potholes, if it's a hazardous pothole, which is defined as 3 inches or greater, we'll come in and fix it. We do very little work on shoulders, things like that. So it's minimal work. Prior to 2008, when we started our enhanced street repair project, that's all we did. No crack sealing, anything like that. So now we've dedicated $200,000 a year, and hopefully that goes up this coming fiscal year, to address what was considered the major problem with Eugene streets, and that was potholes. And 75% of the complaints were coming from unimproved streets. And so we've gone to the maintenance overlay program, where now we were fixing the worst of the worst, but it's been so popular that we've made a decision, if the funding continues, it makes sense to finish all the streets versus looking at them as worse first. But that's as long as our funding continues to go. So, and we anticipate, as Jennifer said earlier, anywhere from 7 to 10 years, we hope to be able to address all of those streets. So, but other than that, we haven't really changed our street maintenance policy to now go back and crack seal those streets and preserve those. So we're getting longer life out of them than we actually predicted back in, or projected back in 2008. We've got some that are still in great shape that were done 10 years ago.
Great, very informative. Thank you very much.
Okay, Alan, second round.
Yeah, the transportation bill that was just passed in 2017 by the legislature provided monies to local communities. How much is that for us, and what kind of restrictions does it have? And when does it start?
Mark Schoening, can you answer that question?
It started the first of the year. So Mark Schoening, City Engineer. So it started the first of the year, and I shared the numbers when I did the quiet zone presentation. So I'm going to go back from that memory. So if I'm wrong, you still have the numbers in some packet. It was $1 million for this year, and then $2 million for the next fiscal year, and then I think it went up to $3.5 million the following 2 fiscal years. So that's the city's share, Eugene's share of that total funding package. And it has the same restrictions as gas tax. It has to be used for public roadways.
So that's incorporated into the backlog number?
No.
Backlog?
No. That's the backlog is expense side. This is the revenue side.
The backlog would be higher if we didn't have that money from the city.
No, we haven't, that money hasn't been appropriated yet.
Oh, okay, so that's on top of that. And it would be used for reservation.
Well, not necessarily. It could be used to implement Vision Zero or the TSP, the Transportation System Plan. Any of the uses that we currently use are share of the state gas tax.
All right, okay. Yeah. So that's how we're going to allocate that still to come.
Right, right.
And I'll just point out that Chris's analogy of bailing, when we did the 2008 citizens, our seven council committee on funding for this, which came up with the bond, we actually had a 3-pronged approach that we were going to do. And the first prong was the bond. The second was a fee based on the use of the roads. And the third was a garbage hauler fee, like $1 per household, and then higher for commercial.
We did gas tax.
And we did a gas tax.
We did the gas tax.
The 4 things. We did the gas tax and we did the bond, but we didn't do the other things, which is why we still have a hole, which is why we can't stop bailing. So maybe it might be time to revisit that. The last question I have is about traffic calming. There's a lot of requests for traffic calming. What's the status of that? How much do we spend a year, and how long is the backlog? Last time it was like $30,000 a year and 1 million years of waiting.
Right, right. Well, yeah, so it's not quite a million years, but, so it's still $30,000 a year. And then if you recall, when the transportation system plan came before you, the Planning Commission recommended that number increase to $100,000 a year. So that's a program that could benefit from that new revenue from the state. And I don't know off the top of my head.
There's a lot of folks that want that in their neighborhoods.
Yeah. I don't know the length of or the number of years of the backlog on traffic calming.
Years, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. 37 years? 30, after 20, it's a million years, so it doesn't mean it was okay. Thanks.
Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thanks to Mark, as long as he's at the table here with us and other staff members, but I wish I could tell Kurt Corey thank you, too. In 2008, I remember, and as I'm sure Mark will, all the meetings we went to at Cal Young Middle School about Bond Lane over there in my ward, which was looked like an active war zone in the street there with that unimproved road. And I think it might have been, I don't want to take, I don't know for 100% certain, but I think it was because I irritated Mark and Kurt so much and so frequently about Bond Lane that they came up with this idea of let's just put a maintenance overlay on the thing and be done with this for a while here. And turns out that's worked incredibly well, and we hope to see more of it. And I want to say thank you for the creativity of coming up with that at the time and being able to help those neighbors, because I drove that the other day, and 10 years later, well, 9 since it's been done, it still looks good. It's still in reasonably good shape. And I remember at the time you saying that's a 5 to 10 year real solution, which that's fair. But it made the people all along that street in my ward very, very happy then, and still does. So thank you for your willingness to come up with creative solutions.
Thank you. You're welcome.
So my understanding is that we have a choice that we can make about approving the proposed list. So we need a motion for that?
I move to authorize the additional streets shown on attachment C to the list of streets to be repaired with bond measure proceeds.
Second.
Any discussion of that? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. None opposed, so that passes. That is excellent. And that brings us to a close. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.